You know, globally, we're more socially connected than ever before. And you know what? Facebook will let you know about 2 billion of us are connected on there. And you know what? Of that, 1,463 of them are my friends. Actually, I lie. Do you know what? My ego got the better of me. I went on yesterday. 1,472. Yes. I'm pumped about that. But you've got to ask yourself, how many of these are actually true connections? You know, some of them are and some of them aren't, let's be honest, right? I reckon at least 80% of them may not be. If you're in the room and you're on my Facebook friend, you are my friend, okay? I just want you to know that. All right, it's really important I get that out there. But the thing is, what I do is I truly crave true connection, and that's why I love my Monday mornings. My Monday mornings is when I get to have a true wholesome connection, and that wholesome connection is with my mum. It's basically, I ring her every Monday morning, it's our routine, and I love my mum. She's 69 years old, she's got this beautiful silver hair with a big, beaming, loving smile and a thick Hungarian accent. So, you know what, I'm going to actually share one of my phone calls, what it is like with my mum on a Monday morning. And it goes a little bit like this. It goes, ring, ring, hello mum. Hello my darling boy, how are you? I'm good, thanks mum. What have you been up to? And then, like the precision of a Swiss clock, at 1 minute and 38 seconds, it's like we've pulled out the script to the movie The Titanic and we read from it. Mum, I've got to ask you, how's your health going? You know, son, I'm okay, it's not too bad. The iceberg. Come on, Mum, I was over the other day, I was watching you walk, you're huffing and puffing, you're not doing too well. Son, why do you do this all the time? You know I am okay, I don't need this. And we agree to disagree beautifully like Hungarian mother and son do. And my mum's very, very independent and she's quite proud of her health and she holds on to it. And what I do is I actually hunger and linger for the end of this conversation. But not in the way that you think. I actually yearn for the end of this conversation like a newborn infant gasping for its first breath of oxygen to give it life. And I wait, and I wait. Okay, son, I have to go now. I love you. Thanks, Mum, I love you too. Now, getting off that phone call, I actually should be really happy. I should feel like I've got a whole lot of love in my heart. But I don't. I actually feel really empty. And I'm really angry and I'm bitter. Not at Mum, but at me. And the thing that I struggle with the most is that I won't tell my mum that I love her first. I wait like this entitled child that she's going to tell me, that she has to tell me that I love her. And this has been plaguing me for the last 3 years. Why won't I tell my mother that I love her first? I mean, like, as a child, I did it all the time. This was not a problem. I'd tell my mum I love her all the time. Told her when I was in pain. It was quite easy to do. But as an adult, something changed. And I don't know what that is. Now, ironically and embarrassingly, I've got a degree in psychology. I'm an ex-mental health counsellor. And my day-to-day job, just to put the cherry on the top, is I'm a coach now and I specialise in how to help people connect to themselves so they can connect to others better. So ladies and gentlemen, I should actually know this better than anybody on how to connect with my mum. But I won't connect with my mum and tell her that I love her first. And I'll introduce you to what happens in my day-to-day life, and this is something I have experienced when we're talking about emotions and opening up and being vulnerable and having trust, is in general, when I have female clients in front of me, my God, that's fun. You girls, all I do is have to ask, how does that make you feel? Or have you felt that before? And it's like New Year's Eve all over again. It's like a fireworks of emotions. I go, well, I love this and I love that and I love that. And hey, what she does to me, I'm going to do this. And then it comes back up again and goes, but this is so joyful and this makes me so happy. But if this person does this again, I'm going to absolutely do something there. And I get front row seats to this every time. Right? I love it. It's quite good. On the other hand, gentlemen. Oh, gentlemen. Oh, gentlemen. Do you know what? This is something for the ladies out there. If you ever want to produce that spine-tingling, cold sweat sensation for a male, the one that you get was, when you've got to go see your accountant to do your taxes, that kind of cold sweat. Such an easy thing. You've just got to ask him this one question. How does that make you feel? That will silence a man straight away. In my experience here, what I've had when I ask gentlemen, I go, how do you feel about that? And they always say, well, the way I'm thinking about it right now is I go, no. We're not playing the thinking game. I get the thinking game. The thinking game is we've got a problem and then we get a solution. We work it out. I want to know how you feel. And it's followed by silence. But you know what? It's not uncommon, myself included, that when talking about emotions, talking about vulnerability and trust and things like this, we tend to clam up. And although a lot of men actually experience this, it doesn't make it okay. It's actually the opposite because it has detrimental effects. Now, in the research of psychology, it is proven time and time again, with men not opening up, has actually got the levels of depression have gone up, divorces have gone through the roof. But the most alarming thing that we have for males here by not opening up is that for every 3 out of 4 suicides are males. Now, this, for some of you, this is common knowledge. For some of you, for others, you think this is going to be pretty new to you. But it's quite sad. And it doesn't have to happen. And there's a lot of correlations that we're not opening up, and that's one of the reasons why. So, this is not a new problem, though. Back in 1935, during the Great Depression, there were times where people were going through mental health illnesses, especially along those ages. And there was an organisation that got born from this where men were struggling and they were suppressing their emotional outbursts and their right to be a man. And when they couldn't be a right to be a man, they suppressed it with alcohol. And what actually happened was there was the birth of Alcoholics Anonymous, now, which is a great story in itself if you're not too sure. One gentleman, Bill Wilson, comes along, a chronic alcoholic, and he is struggling with alcoholism. He's tried to commit suicide 4 or 5 times. And he's about to go to a pub. And as he walks past this pub, there's this deep inner voice that calls out to him and he goes, no more. And he jumps across the road and he goes to a phone booth. To be honest, I didn't know how they had phone booths in 1935, but apparently that's what he did. He gets on there and he rings a church. And when he rings the church, he says to the priest, he goes, put me in touch with somebody who can help me out with my alcoholism. Sure enough, they put him onto a doctor. And they sit down and chat. Now, ironically, the weird thing is, they're both alcoholics, so is the doctor. Yeah, true story. This is how Alcoholics Anonymous actually came about. 2 guys with a common problem. And what they did was, they actually sat down, they had a meeting, and they started to unpack why they were drinking so much, what were they suppressing. Cut a long story short, what they were suppressing was that they didn't feel man enough in 1935 because they were losing jobs. They couldn't support their families. They couldn't be the fathers that they wanted to be. So what they did, they hit it with alcohol. But the most amazing thing is when these 2 gentlemen got together, they spoke for 4 hours and they spoke from their heart. And they spoke about things that mattered to them. Not once did they want a sip of alcohol. Just by having that one connection. That's how Alcoholics Anonymous was born. But in saying that, I'm really proud to be a mental health practitioner because these days we hear a lot of men's mental health groups around, which is fantastic. So all of you give yourselves a round of applause. I think that's fantastic. And I've got to say, I'm going to share a young man's journey. A really good friend of mine who, name's Faden. You know how you're not supposed to name names, but I will today. His name's Faden. He's 27 years old now. He's a lovely young man. Got married at the age of 20, and his life was going really, really well for him. And he had a passion for motorbikes. And he's so passionate about motorbikes, he loves building them, breaking them, fixing them, riding them, and not in that order. Just as long as he's on there, he's happy as. And that's his passion. But what happened at the age of 25, he actually experienced his first anxiety attack, and it was crippling. And unfortunately, he actually held on to this crippling anxiety for 12 months. It came back in bouts and it got worse and worse and worse. And for a young man at the age of 25, he had thoughts of suicide going through his head, and he's never had thoughts of suicide enter his head ever before, so he couldn't explain where they were coming from. Sadly, though, he thought he wouldn't share it with anybody because he was scared of how he was going to be perceived by society, by his mates, by his wife. He thought he was being weak by admitting that he had something called anxiety. Fortunately or unfortunately, Faden hit breaking point. And breaking point meant he had one of two things. He had to come out and communicate to somebody, or the other one was actually take option B. And I'm so glad he took option A. With the help of his wife, he started talking about his anxiety and what was happening and what was building up for him. He went and saw therapists, and he felt the healing and the connection of actually talking about what was deep down inside of him, his deepest, darkest fears. And he was able to talk about that. So Faden, in his wisdom, is feeling better. What else does a guy who likes riding motorbikes do? You get a bunch of mates and you go riding motorbikes, don't you? And what happened was he actually valued this whole thing about sharing, about holding a group and talking about stuff that mattered to him. So as the boys are riding, they're going out for a ride, and they've got this thing, it's a great thing. Their motto is this. They actually just start riding, but they don't know their destination. They say, let's just go get lost for a little while, right? And we'll do it on motorbikes, it'll be so cool. Faden gets off his bike, they're getting petrol, and he starts to open up to the rest of the guys because he can see how valuable this is. He goes, I had an anxiety attack, I struggled with 12 months, I had thoughts of suicide, and now I started sharing, I feel better about it. The amazing thing that happened, this transformation happened between these mates. They all started to open up. And they go, I'm struggling in my marriage, I'm struggling at work. They didn't have the words on how to articulate it correctly about how they felt emotionally. They normally just said, I feel crap and I don't know what to do. But the four of them looked at each other and go, you know what, we've got something here. This is really, really powerful. Why don't we just start our own men's mental health group? Now, Faden's telling me this story, and I'm thinking, this is fantastic. This is really touching. And he goes, mate, we'd like you to join. And I thought, thank God, because this is something I've been looking for. Because I still won't tell my mum that I love her first. Then Faden said the worst thing to me 30 seconds later. He goes, can you come on board as a mentor? Now, what I did with my emotional sense, I just kicked that outside. Ego got in and go, yes, I will be the fix-it guy. I don't have problems. These guys have problems. I'm loving it already. Yes, sign me up as mentor. Let's go. And I do. And I'm hearing these amazing stories. I've got men, the way that we were communicating first, I'd open up workshops and they were just open forums. And a gentleman would stand up and he starts crying and he goes, I don't feel like I'm a man anymore because my wife and I are trying to conceive and have a child and we're having problems with it and I feel like it's my fault, but I don't know how to express that. I've got fathers coming up to me saying, you know what? I've got 2 young boys and a daughter. I don't feel like I'm a man enough. I don't know how to show love to my children. I think I'm a bad role model. This is killing me. I've got men that have been married for 20 years and saying, our marriage is on the rocks. I know it's going sour, but I know I don't want to leave my wife. And I haven't told her that I love her in 10 years. I got that guy. So life goes on, and I've got to be honest, I was looking for a connection in the group, and to be honest with you, I didn't have one. And I created that connection, that disconnection myself. Because what happened, what I found out was if I'm the fix-it guy, if I'm the solution guy, and they're the problem guy, I've created a divide straight away. I felt so disconnected in a group where I was hoping to find connection with myself. And I didn't. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? Sometimes, just sometimes, you got to be careful for what you wish for. So my life goes to crap. I hit rock bottom. I am burnt out, business-wise, relationship-wise. I just get my heart smashed in a million pieces. But worst thing ever is the relationship between my father fizzles and it goes out. My dad's my rock. I love my dad. I still do today. But we had a really, really hard time. And then I was at such rock bottom, I didn't know what to do. And I was angry with myself because I couldn't fix this for myself. And I'm thinking around, I'm looking around, and I go, these motorbike guys, the mental health, men's health group, they bloody better work, is all I'm saying. Now, there's 2 ways that we share information in this group. One is by an open forum, or the other one is on a Facebook page. We've got a private Facebook page. You put down a blog, and then people will feed back. So I did the most heroic thing I could do. I posted it on Facebook. So I didn't have to see face to face. This is what I posted, just to share with you. Hi everyone, I need a little bit of help please. Has anybody had to deal with a loved one who is battling alcoholism and they in denial about it? My father has been an alcoholic for the last 10 years and cut off all family ties, has become aggressive and abusive to everyone. Things are getting worse with him. I'm lost what to do. Any help we offer to him as a family is rejected. Does anyone know where I can get support for this before it gets worse? Thanks, fellas. I send this. And I don't send it comfortably, I send it with a whole lot of hesitations. And you know what? Just before I do actually press the send button, I have a whole lot of fears going through my head. I am flooded with fear of doing this. And this is what the fears sound like. Is anybody going to read this? Am I going to get noticed? You know what? People laugh at me. I've got problems. I'm being a guy. I'm talking about emotional stuff. Oh, I've got daddy issues. Are people going to laugh at me? I sound weak. Am I less of a man? You know what? My reputation as a fixer guy is just gone. Now I've got problems. Does anybody actually really care? And I don't want to be a burden to anybody. I push the send button. I walk away from my computer nervously, and I come back. And you know, there was something about pushing the send button that was actually really super cool. Some of the weight had lifted off my shoulder magically just by sharing that. And I really didn't care if anybody replied. But what was amazing, people did reply. And be like, hey Tony, how are you? Sorry to hear what you're going through. I don't know I've never experienced that before, but I've got an uncle that's actually gone through that. I'll get in touch with them and see what we can do. And then I had a flood of a community actually come to me and give me support and love. And in that moment, I actually felt connected to this group. And I'm starting to get it. I'm starting to understand. Monday morning. Ring, ring. Hello, Mum. Hello, son. How are you? I'm good, Mum. Are you all right? No, I'm not feeling too well. Now, what happened 30 minutes before this phone call to Mum, a nursing home had rang. And they said, hey, we've got a spare room here for your mum if she wants to move in. And I'm going, well, hold on a second. I go, is this a courtesy call? Like, this is a really weird, random call for you to make. And they go, yeah, it's just a courtesy call. Just ring up to see if your mum wants to move in. Now, my mum's a clairvoyant. And I'm thinking, gee, she's bloody good. Like, she's not feeling too well. She must be wanting to go to a nursing home. And I go, Mum, the nursing home just rang. She goes, yeah, I'm thinking about it. She goes, can you come over so we can have a chat? I go, absolutely, Mum. Absolutely. Come over, have a chat. That was Monday. I had to wait till Saturday. That was the longest week of my life because I didn't know what I was going to walk into. Mum hasn't told me what's going on. And I sit down and I see my mum there with the silver hair. This time the smile's not there though. And I go, Mum, what's happening? She goes, son, I'm so sorry. She goes, 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with leukemia and I chose not to get any treatment and I'm dying. And I didn't want to be a burden to you or your sister, so I'm sorry about that. And in that instance, my heart opened up like a young child feeling every raw bit of energy of pain, sorrow, grief, and loss. And Mum and I connected like we haven't connected for a long time since I've been an adult. We connected like we did when I was a child. And we looked at each other and we talked and we laughed. And we did laugh as well in this, but there was that connection there. But there was something else that resonated with me. It was quite interesting. It was when she said, you know what? I didn't want to be a burden to you. And I got that. Because I held the belief as a male, I didn't want to be a burden to anybody else. So I wouldn't tell people my problems. Failed relationship after relationship after relationship where girls are telling me, you know what, Tony, you know everything about us, but we know nothing about you. I never let anybody into my life. So having that childlike emotional, raw energy come through. Gave me the connection that I was yearning with my mum for so long. So I'm going to leave you with this. I'm going to encourage you to speak up and live wholeheartedly so you can actually create true connections with people that matter to you. And you know what? I always make sure I tell my mum that I love her first now. Thank you.